Welcome to the Livfiit Listens podcast, a safe space of growth, personal development, and overall wellness with your host, Olivia Catania. Diving into the realms of all things health, conscious living, mental expansion, and much more, this podcast is designed to help you evolve into your best self and live fit. Let's get into the show. All right, people, hello, welcome back. I'm feeling antsy today, even though I feel like this episode, I don't want to say it's I don't want to say it's, I guess, kind of lower energy, the messages, I guess, but I'm feeling high energy right now. I don't know about you guys, but like the smallest things get me excited or like get me hyped up. And like right now, it's just this whole setup has been like amping me up for some reason. And I purchased what I didn't know at the time, the best purchase of my entire life. It's this really loose like jumpsuit from Free People, which I included it in one of my videos a few videos ago on YouTube, one of my vlogs. And I think I literally still have the tag on it. Just kidding. I thought it would tell me the name of it. Anyways, it's a huge baggy play suit and I call it a cotton garbage bag. And I bought it for like Hawaii because I thought it would be so cute there, like post surfing, but I paired it with a turtleneck right now. And I honestly, I love it. I think it's so cute like this, like styled this way. And I love, like, it's just the most comfortable thing I've ever put in my body. You guys know I live in like the same 4 pieces of clothing. And this is like this is going to be the 5th. I just love this. And it's so comfortable yet practical and like ready for like just movement, adventure, motion. It's right up my alley and I'm obsessed with it. And I watched The Princess Diaries not too long ago. And I totally feel like the mom of Mia Thermopolis, the painter, and when they're like doing throwing the darts at the balloons that are filled with paint, like that's who I feel like I just feel like her, like the painter as a mother in The Princess Diaries. It is what it is, but I'm here for it. And also because I have my hair in a claw clip. Anyways, I'm getting sidetracked, but I'm going to continue. I also have my little bouquet of flowers here. And last time I was like, I think it's crowding the situation, but I actually love them. And I love having them here. They're kind of like my emotional support. And honestly, they've held up. They're starting to wilt right now, but they've held up for a long time. It's been over 10 days since I bought these. So they've honestly been hanging in there. I've been literally kissing them and trying to give them love because, you know, the whole concept about like plants, like if you give them positive energy, it'll help them grow and stay alive. So I really think it's been working because they've been on my bedside table. And like, I love them. Also, I made a TikTok of me making a pizza. Sorry guys, my thoughts are all over the place right now. But I just edited a TikTok video of me making a pizza, and the song, Living in Roma or something in Roma by Dean Watts. Why can't I remember the name now? An Evening in Roma by Dean Martin. Duh, that's what it is. And now it's stuck in my head and I'm like, dun, 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 dun. You guys know the song. And it's also reminding me of like, I think it's in the movie Lizzie McGuire when that song plays. I'm pretty sure. One of like an old movie from my childhood that's in the movie and it's just making me so nostalgic. And now it's just stuck in my head all the time. Anyways, shall we make some sort of progress in this episode? I guess. I'm kidding. But I don't know why I'm all over the place. I like wasn't really talkative this morning and now all of a sudden I'm like, let's go. So anyways, gratitude. I wrote this episode yesterday. And to be 1,000% honest, I've kind of been emo like the past week. I've definitely been down, kind of posted about it on my Instagram a little bit. So yesterday I wrote as my gratitude, I'm grateful for the difficult times in my life as they've provided me the contrast to be able to have clarity in situations and like what I want in my life. And I think that's so powerful and so important to be able to fully, truly feel, embody, and express gratitude for not only the good things in life, that's kind of the easy part, but doing it for something that's difficult, that challenged you, that made you grow, that was hard. That takes a lot of strength and honestly kind of humility in a way. It's kind of like swallowing your pride a little bit, I want to say, to like allow yourself to be actually fully thankful and say thank you to those things that were really hard for you. So that was the first thing, because obviously my difficult times have helped me to like mold me into the person that I am today. And like I said, with providing contrast, it has given me clarity to see like now what do I want in my life as opposed to what I don't want in my life. How can I learn so I don't have that again? All of that sort of thing. But then this morning, kind of adding to that, another thing that I really felt thankful for was the ability for things to change. And it kind of goes hand in hand with that when I was talking about like difficult times in my life, because it's like when I say I'm thankful for things to change, like I'm thankful for like the impermanence of life. Like, and that's just like kind of a very foundational principle of the way life works. Like nothing lasts forever. They just don't. Things are always changing. And this is weird that's coming into my mind, but I feel like the sky holds so many echoes, so many life lessons. And like one of them being that like things constantly are always changing. Like whether if like it's a cloudy day and like every minute the clouds are moving, or like every day, if you're talking about a cloudy day, each cloudy day that we're talking about is completely different from the next cloudy day. Like things are always shifting. And I know that was kind of weird, but like when I look at the sky like that, it like just echoed that to me, that like there's no 2 days where the sky looks exactly identical unless it's like completely bluebird days. But it's just freeing and kind of liberating when you truly like realize that like things are always changing, always shifting, always evolving. Because especially when you're talking about the negative things in life, like it always passes. Time always continues on. They eventually in time they hold less significance. They don't feel as heavy because time does assist in healing. And just, I don't know, whether it's good or bad, like let's say we're talking about a bad situation, at the end of the day things are going to get better, and it's not going to seem like the end of the world like it may be right now. At least that's for me. Like I feel like there's been a lot of issues in my personal life, but I just was thinking, I was like, I'm just thankful that it's not going to feel this way forever. Like I know in a few months I'm not even going to be thinking about these things, we're going to be laughing about these things, or it's not even going to be a pressing issue anymore in a few months. And just that concept I was thankful for, because it just made me not feel so stuck or so imprisoned. It was kind of very liberating and freeing, and kind of like a weight lifted off my shoulders to think of life in that way. So like I had been saying, getting into the episode, I have not been feeling so hot just for a little bit, like the past few weeks. I don't even know really how long. And I obviously, of course, don't say that as a cry for help or sympathy. I just am saying like this is something that I realized and continue to realize, I guess, as I get older and life like echoes it into me, I guess, and just like through repetition, that there's phases and waves of life. Sometimes life feels really good and we're in a good phase, and other times we're in a lull and it feels hard. And to be honest, in the beginning of the year, I had been feeling like things were going so well. I felt like I had so many opportunities for me. I felt like just so optimistic in general. I felt like the world is my oyster. I felt like I just felt like there was so opportunistic, I guess is what I want to say. And I was feeling really good with my body image and all of that sort of stuff, like kind of all bases. I was feeling really good, and it just was like I was on an up. I was on a high. And then all of those things kind of have slowly seemed to shift in one way or another. Like especially my body image has been really not good again, which honestly, this is clockwork. It's like always this time of year. I just swear my body struggles a little bit, like just with weather and the compounding of winter and all that sort of stuff. And I don't know, I just felt kind of like I wasn't doing well with work, like there was less opportunities, and just kind of all this stuff that I had more problems in my personal life, and just like things were kind of shifting. And the thing is that the same thing happens like in life overall, and it's kind of like I said, it's kind of like clockwork. And I don't know, I just kind of wanted to bring that to light in this episode and talk about it for an episode, because at least fully grasping this and like kind of becoming fully aware that this truly is just a principle of life. And I don't mean that in a pessimistic way, like bad times are always coming, so like, you know, like those good times aren't going to last long, so better cherish them. I do not mean them like that by any means. I'm just trying to simply state a fact, like a completely neutral point of the truth of life, like from a completely unbiased way, not trying to weight it as good or bad. I'm just trying to state and bring to light in this episode, like life happens in waves, and that is okay. And me, you know, noticing that and accepting that and fully grasping that has helped me not get so lost in my highs and so low in my lows, if that makes sense. Because it's kind of like, I don't know, I used to like, I'm just using this body image example, or like if like things weren't going well in work, like if I used to get so caught up in that and be like, oh my gosh, like this is it, like I'm losing my opportunities, or this is XYZ. Like I would get so down and think like things are crashing down, there's no hope to go upwards, like this is just it, like we're on the down low, like we just had a loss. I used to get so engulfed and consumed in that. But now like truly realizing that like life happens in waves, and there always is an upswing, just like there will be a downswing. What goes up must come down, has allowed me to be so much more equalized throughout these highs and lows, and also still remain super hopeful and optimistic, and also accepting of those lows, but hopeful that the highs are going to be returning. So I guess it just has helped me not get so in a frenzy or so stressed out or so consumed by these lower points, because now I'm just like, It's a part of life. Like it happens, and there's going to be more good times to come as well, and we're going to be in an upswing. Like this doesn't last forever, and the highs don't last forever, and there's good and bad for each, I guess pros and cons, I should say, for each of those scenarios, right? When things don't last forever, in terms of like less favorable scenarios, we're like, hey, at least this will pass too and things will get better. And then in terms of like even good things don't last forever and those good things are going to pass as well. That's what allows us to cherish the moment even more, feel more appreciative, makes it more special, make us be more grateful for it. That's what gives things value. That's like the whole concept of like supply and demand, or when something depreciates or has a shorter lifespan, like that usually is what it's going to give it greater value, simply truly because we just don't have it as long to enjoy it. So that just in and of itself has really helped me in truly accepting, like I'm saying, that like change really is our only constant in life, and to really try to learn early on to find comfortability in change and almost comfort in it, honestly, because like I'm saying, like there's different pros and cons to each. Like there's beauty, so much beauty in the concept that things are always changing and evolving and shifting. And same thing with energy. Energy is a free flowing thing that's always moving, and you guys know I believe every single thing is energy. It's not even a belief, it's science. Everything is energy. We are energy, scenarios are energy, all that sort of stuff. So that is just the way that life flows. And another thing that helps me, I guess, when I'm kind of in that lull, I guess, in the wave, in the trough of the wave instead of the peak, or where I just feel like I'm like, damn, I feel like a lot of shitty things are happening right now sometimes. Something that has really helped me is like learning and changing my perspective to see the fact that like nothing truly is good or bad. If you think about it, like the only thing that's giving life to something being good or bad is our own perceptions, our agreement as a society, and what we have all agreed upon to be good or bad. Like if we learned that, I don't know, walking around naked is freeing and respectable and all that sort of stuff, that's what we would truly believe. But because we grew up in a society where, you know, we're supposed to be more modest, conservative is respectful, respect your body, meaning cover up your body, we think that that would be disrespectful to have us be walking around naked. When really we used to do that completely in the beginning of time when we were first initially humans. Do you know what I mean? It's like all stuff like that where it's kind of like we have just as humans in a society decided to give certain definitions to things that we've agreed upon, and we're the ones that are giving life to that and labeling it as either good or bad. The only truth is what is. Like the only truth is that a tree fell over. That's it. That is the true fact of what happened in the reality, and it's up to us to deem that of if it is a positive thing that happened or a bad thing that happened. It's through our perception, through our own scenarios, through our own situations that we deem something as good or bad. And what's even further point of that is something that one group of people deem as good, another group of people could deem the same exact situation as a bad thing. On a really small scale, small example, let's just say there's a lot of traffic. One person is stuck in traffic and is trying to rush to work. They're like, damn, this traffic is awful. I can't believe I'm stuck in this. I have somewhere to be. Where someone else who has a lot of time to kill and wants to finish these 5 songs that are queued in the playlist before they have to get to the grocery store, they're like, oh, sick, now I have more time to listen to this song. Like stuff like that, as little as it can be, like that's what I mean when it's truly perspective and all perception and all completely relative. And honestly, there's a Shakespeare quote that says it literally perfectly. There's a literal quote on it. It says, nothing is either good or bad, but thinking makes it so. That's probably paraphrased a little bit, but I'll read it again. It says, there's nothing either good or bad, but thinking makes it so. And I'm just serious, you guys, like next time you try to think of something and like when you're like, oh, this is so shitty, ask yourself why. Why do you think it's bad? Why do you think it's a shitty situation? It's always going to go back to an opinion, a perception, or some sort of like collectively agreed upon belief. It's kind of honestly fascinating when you like really put into practice and see it in action. And another thing that has given me peace, I guess, in like those ups and downs, like I've been saying, and especially if we're running with this wave analogy, how there's like a trough in a wave and a peak of a wave, and you need both of them. Like you need the trough in order to provide contrast to be able to create that peak and have us be able to see the peak, perceive the peak, and have it be able to come into existence. So Alan Watts in the book, it's literally called The Book by Alan Watts, he talks about the concept of polarity in all things. And I'm actually reading another book right now. It's called The Mastery of Self by Don Miguel Ruiz Jr. He also just talked about polarity today and just saying how basically we live in a world that's built off of polarity. polarity, essentially meaning that for everything, there's its exact opposite. For every up, we need a down. If we want lightness, we need darkness. If we want space, there needs to be matter. If we want a sound, there needs to be silence. And kind of speaking to that, actually, I'll read it to you before I, continue. And I just want to say, like, this is why I love reading these personal development books, because to be like a 10,000% honest, like, these are just, I have thought of these, conclusions. Like, I truly remember, I remember thinking about this in quarantine of 2020. And I just read this book, I think maybe 3 months ago now. And it just completely has like echoed it in such a beautiful way. And it's validating my own theories and philosophies by reading these books. And not that I need external validation, but it's just as nice to read it coming from someone else and have them explain it so well and so eloquently. But I literally remember thinking about this, especially the whole concept of like contrast. Like, because I remember I was going for a walk again in quarantine of 2020. And I was like, it's so crazy that like we truly genuinely need this contrast in order to have things be able to be perceived and percepted by us. Like, because I was walking, I was like, let's say that the grass was the same exact texture as the sidewalk, I wouldn't, or in the same color, I would have no clue where the separation is between the grass and the sidewalk. Like, I needed the different contrasts, the different textures between them for me to be able to see the difference between one another. And that's kind of exactly what I'm kind of trying to get at in this whole episode. And just like in life, like, we need these less favorable situations to give light to the good situations, etc. And just that each scenario, like, honestly truly holds its perfect place in life and in the world. Because like I said, life is the yin yang symbol, so everything completely seamlessly makes up the whole of the yin yang symbol. So in other words, we do not play the game of black and white, the universal game of up, down, on, off, solid space, and each, all. Instead, we play the game of black versus white, more usually white versus black. For especially when rates of vibration are slow as with day and night or life and death, we are forced to be aware of the black or negative aspect of the world. Then, not realizing the inseparability of the positive and negative poles of the rhythm, we are afraid that black may win the game. But the game, white must win, is no longer a game. It is a fight haunted by a sense of chronic frustration because we are doing something as crazy as trying to keep the mountains and get rid of the valleys. So essentially, he's just saying, like, I picture it as like kind of two opposite ends of a pencil. We need the lead part and also the eraser part. And let's say the bad is the eraser and the good is the pencil part of good scenarios in life versus bad scenarios in life. People want the good and feel like we should only have the good and we should only have to experience the good pieces of life. But that's what you're saying when we're trying to do something as crazy as trying to keep the mountains and get rid of the valleys. We need that to give life to the good things in life, to provide that contrast, to allow us to give us the perception of them. It's like the same thing. If you were to take like, okay, where is the light if we have never experienced darkness? There's nothing there to bring light to the light. Or if there's no empty space, how are we supposed to know where the matter actually begins? So he's kind of just saying like we're trying to do something so crazy as trying to separate two ends of the same entity. And really, truly embodying that has given me absolutely so much peace. So this book is going to be linked in the show notes down below my Amazon storefront. And with that, let's read the part of the book from The Mastery of Self, because it also speaks on polarity and it's absolutely perfect. I also love when the different books that I read like overlap like this, because I'm like, yes, like it's just principles of life. It says, the dream of the planet is a world of polarities where something is known only in relation to its opposite. Light is defined in relation to dark, up in relation to down, day to night, etc. Without one, we wouldn't know the other. In instances of opinion like hot and cold, tall and short, good and bad, assessments are based on our perception as what is deemed good by one person may be interpreted as bad by someone else. I'm aware that when I say something, I am both right and wrong at the same time because the perception of the individual who listens to me will determine the validity of what I say according to their point of view, and they are free to do so. I celebrate that. And I love that so freaking much because I also just feel like so many people, especially in our generation, in our world today, think life like is so harsh and so black and white and being like, no, this is the way it is. This is like, you know what I mean? Like, this is the only answer. This is the answer. You're wrong. I'm right. When like it is gray. Like we always want these clear cut black and white lines, but like it is gray. So much of life is subjective, relative, based on opinion, based on our perception, based on the collective beliefs of our own upbringing. Like there's so much more that goes into it. And I feel like that's why it's so important to have an open mind, especially like in how evolved our society is. Like there's so much more to it now, even more so, especially now. And it just really yields to have an open mind in today's society, not getting so hung up on what people are saying of like, yes, they're right, I'm wrong, whatever. Like there's just more to it. And it's really only going back to your own opinion, your perception, and noticing that and just allowing yourself to have an open mind and taking a step back and having a bigger perspective, looking at the bigger picture. I feel like will help everyone come into agreement more because it's going to help us have more compassion from person to person and from our neighbors, and understanding like, hey, I'm looking at through my lens of my life and my dream, and they're doing the same thing from their way. And obviously it's not going to be exactly the same because we have different dreams. We're living different realities because we're living through different lenses. And another one, I wasn't expecting to reference so many books, but they're making me think of them as I'm reading these. So another book, which I actually did try to look for this quote. It's in one of Eckhart Tolle's books. I think it's in The Power of Now. And he was talking about how you guys probably have heard me say the greater good, the greater good. And some of you may not fully know what that means. And the greater good is just essentially like the overall goodness at the end of the day, at the end of the situation. It's the good at the end of the day. It might not feel good in the moment, but it's for either growing pains or expansion on the latter end. Like it may not feel good now, but it's going to feel good later. Like that's what the whole concept of like the greater good is. And in one of the books he was saying, I'm so bummed I couldn't find it because I really was looking for a while and I couldn't find the section, but he was talking about how truly, like, yes, how I'm saying here, there are technically good and bad scenarios in life. There's the ups and the downs, there's the peaks. But I guess if I were to draw life, now this is kind of coming together as I'm talking this through. If I were to draw it, I feel like if we're going on with this wave analogy, there's going to be the peaks and the troughs, right? But then if you guys remember I don't remember what year this was of math. Some math in high school, when you're doing the graphs and there's the overall trend line, right? And I feel like you do graphs like in every sort of math, but whatever. And what's really, sometimes will have you look at the overall trend line. So I think what's kind of what I'm getting at here is like, yes, we need the peaks and the troughs of kind of the day-to-day scenarios on the smaller scale, but on the bigger scale in terms of when we're talking greater good, that line is still an upward trend. And that's what's important in life, is making sure that we're living in our honest truth, looking at things through how can I learn from this? How can be a lesson if it seems like a less favorable situation, and constantly trying to use things for our growth, our advantage, and to our just like evolvement as humans on our life journey. That is what's going to help us keep that line overall in an upward trend, and that's what's most important, and that's that whole greater good concept that I'm talking about. So in the book, he essentially was just saying how everything, no matter if it's good or bad, is always conspiring for our greater good. So at the end of the day, that's all there is greater good when everything plays out and it's all said and done. And I completely love that as well. And it's so insanely, unbelievably, undeniably true, because even the less favorable situations, those quote unquote troughs in the waves, like they hold lessons and learning experiences, and at the very, very, very least, they're nudges, they're signs, they're wake-up calls for us to grow and actually go through evolvement as humans, like I was saying previously. And when you truly grasp and like understand the concept that like we need those uncomfortable scenarios to make us grow and evolve and learn lessons, that's when you truly see it, that everything truly is actually conspiring for your greater good. Because, sometimes like, you look back and like, this is such a shitty situation, or when you're in it, I guess I should say, you're like, oh, this seems so crappy. But then when you look back, think about how much even at the very least, you're stronger as a person because you went through an unfavorable, uncomfortable, difficult situation. At the end of the day, that helped you evolve as a human because you are stronger, and now you have that experience under your belt, and now you could be, now you can empathize with someone else who is going through that, or offer them help and advice for someone who's going through that same thing, or hopefully maybe something more tangible. You have an actual lesson that you can apply, whether you got kind of ripped off in your work. Now you know how to handle it when you're working with another business partner. It's like all of these things are trials and tribulations at the end of the day to help make us better. And I know it's kind of honestly sounds corny, but it's really important for us to truly grasp it, because that's another thing which I want to do another episode on this. It's like we could talk about this stuff all day long, you guys. You can tell yourself like, oh yeah, like I'm just going through a lesson, but without you actually truly feeling this concept, embodying this concept, believing it to your core, they're just words. They're not going to mean anything. So you have to truly, and again, this will help you embody this and truly understand it by affirming these things to yourself and repeating it. But you have to truly put it into practice by when these negative things happen, put it into practice and say, hey, well, I know this is going to help me in the long run. So I'm not going to get super down about it, because I understand, I'm affirming to myself, I'm rewiring my thoughts, I'm reframing my thoughts to know that this is working for my greater good. What can I learn from this right now? How can I move forward? Etc. And that's what's really going to help you actually truly embody this concept of what I'm saying for the greater good, and help you feel just more stable overall when you're living your life, no matter what your present circumstances are, if it's less favorable or more favorable, etc. But on the contrary, back to what I'm saying when I say every single solitary thing in life is perspective, if you don't see it that way and you're not looking for the lessons, or you're not trying to apply new lessons, and you're numb to it, and you're just so caught up in like the concept of that this sucks and that you're resentful to your situation, it's not going to feel that way. It's not going to feel like it's a time to learn. It's not going to feel like it's a time for growth. It's not going to feel like it's a time for evolvement, and you won't ever see that silver lining, or you won't ever see that light at the end of the tunnel. And that's when it goes back to, so you are the creator of your own life. You are in the driver's seat of your own life. And that's when it's up to you to unfog your freaking windshield and see that there really is more in front of you. There's more potential in front of you, but you just have to see it, and you have to reframe your thoughts, and you have to look for the good. You have to put in the effort to see the good. And I also saw something on Instagram. I keep referencing so many things in this episode, but I saw something on Instagram, and it was a little quote from the universe, and it said, "Of course I had to make you uncomfortable, or else you wouldn't have moved." And it was a little in quotation marks, and it said dash the universe, like from the universe. And I loved that. And it's so true. And I just think it's like kind of the tough love concept from the universe. It's the uni giving you tough love in order to give you that nudge that you need in order to make you grow, because there's no reason to move. If you're sitting outside basking in the sun, why would you move? Unless it got really cloudy and windy and started to rain, that's what's going to make you get up and move. So that's what sometimes it takes the universe makes us uncomfortable, but at the end of the day, it truly is for the greater good, and we need to trust in that. And we also need to trust that life is a wave, like I'm saying, and that even though when we get in those troughs, peaks are coming for us. That constant is our only change. Things are always shifting, always changing, always evolving, always flowing. We are in a flow. Energy is a free-flowing thing. We are energy. Life is energy. And we just need to stop resisting that. Stop trying to swim upstream when it's just not the time to do so, when the stream is, rushing downwards. And just sometimes you have to surrender sometimes in life. Do what you can to turn things around and keep your positive mindset, but sometimes you just got to wait for the storm to pass. Sometimes that's really just what it comes down to, and I personally feel like that's kind of where I am, and I trust and know that things are going to get better, so I don't get so far down or down on myself when life doesn't feel as great as it normally does for me. And I just really wanted to echo that out to you guys. If you guys are struggling too, just don't get so in your head about it. Don't feel so suppressed by it. Trust and know that better things are coming. And just like there's a downswing, there's always going to be an upswing. And so I just really wanted to hone that in and talk about that in this episode. And that's just my main point, that we need both the ups and the downs. They each hold their divine placement in life, and definitely keep things interesting and give life to the good things in life. So for the affirmation for today, it says, I trust that all is happening as it should, when it should, for my highest good. This is a pretty classic affirmation for me. I love this one. I'll say it again. I trust that all is happening as it should, when it should, for my highest good. And let me tell you, when I really was struggling internally about things that I couldn't control, like that were happening in my personal life, I would tell myself, I came up with, every single affirmation I tell you guys, I come up with it myself. But that one specifically, I would just tell myself that over and over and over again. I would say it out loud. I would say it in the mirror. Anytime I had like a lot of anxious thoughts or started to get really upset about something, I would just tell myself, I trust that all is happening as it should, when it should, for my highest good. And it kind of rhymes. It's catchy, and it has given me so much peace. So I absolutely love that affirmation. As soon as I was outlining this episode, I was like, that's the affirmation. Don't even need to think twice about it. So I really hope this episode helped just to shine some light on just giving you guys some more perspective, shining some light on the bad, and knowing that there's so much light in the bad because they provide contrast to allow us to experience the light, if you will. So I really, really, truly hope this helped. I hope it gave you some comfort. If you guys are struggling, I'm sending you extra love this week. You guys are definitely in my thoughts. Thank you guys so much for listening or watching wherever you are consuming this content, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one. Peace out.